Hey Coach, I'm so happy you found us on YouTube. I'm in one of my happy places here in our gym. A couple things. First of all, make sure you subscribe. There's a little bell up above. You'll get all the notifications every time something comes out. We publish something every day for you to be a better basketball coach. If you're looking to take your coaching to another level, if you're looking to put some pictures on the wall, let me help you. Come over and join us at teachhoops.com. I do not think you'll be disappointed. All right, let's head off to the channel. All right, welcome to Coach Unplugged. And like I've said in the last probably 10, I've lost track of trying to count how many. But I'm super excited. This has been a work in progress. I know we've tried to do this at least one other time, Keith. Tried to connect and talk basketball, talk officiating a little bit, talk Alaska basketball, which really intrigues me a lot. It is also one of the two states in the United States that I have not been to. I've not been to Oregon, and I have not been to Alaska. I've been to every other state in the U.S. So it is on my bucket list when the world gets back to normal.
And we're going to invite you out when the world gets back to normal.
When the world gets back to normal, I'm coming. I'm bringing my wife. I'm leaving. My son just graduated, but he's sticking around a year. How about that? He just graduated. He's going to take a gap year.
Right.
I don't want to go to sit in a room and take college, Dad. It's like, okay, well, we'll figure something out. Get a job. You can mow my lawn, something. All right. So Keith, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, kind of tell your background a little bit, what you're doing now, all of that kind of stuff. And then we'll have Jason do it next. Go right ahead.
All right. My name is Keith Williams. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I've been in Alaska 24 years. Came up in the service and had a daughter and decided to stay. Got into coaching, youth 4-year-olds on base, the commander's daughter, and just.
How does that work? I bet she got a lot of playing time.
Yeah, absolutely she did. And she started, right? Got funding for the best uniforms. It was just incredible. I had the best orange slices. It was amazing.
Oh, I bet it was really good. It's like coaching the 4-star general. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna play next. Yeah. I love that.
So from there, daughter got old enough to play. Started coaching her all the way through middle school, and wanted a group of girls to travel outside the state of Alaska to play in some sort of basketball competition, and created the team, the Alaska Vipers, even though we do not have any snakes. I'm sure that was one of your Alaska questions. We don't have any snakes in Alaska, but what a cool logo, right? So I said, I got to run with it.
I mean, someone should just full-time name all the AAU programs. Like literally, they pop up like weeds. So it's like you come up with a name. It's probably, that's awesome. I love that. So
from the Vipers, one of the young ladies on my team, an 8th grader, she's 6'3", her name is Leah Dupree. She went to University of Denver and then transferred to Eastern Washington. Her old high school was looking for a coach. She submitted my name. The contacts came in, and I became the Palmer High basketball coach in Palmer, Alaska, which is, it's Mat-Su Valley, and Jason can explain this a little better when he introduces himself. And there's 3 schools in the Mat-Su Valley, and literally my school is a mile away from Colony. Would you say that, Jason?
About 3 or 4.
Yeah, and then Wasilla, which is on the west end of town, I guess, is probably about another 5 miles away.
Okay. So first of all, I'm still stuck on the 6'3". So that's like a 6'9", 6'10" boy. Like that's crazy tall girl.
Well, I had a 6'4", 7th. So she was in 8th grade. I had a 6'4", 7th grader. She plays for University of North Dakota.
Okay.
Right now. So she was a 6'4", stretch 4 at that time, and I wanted to put her in the paint, and she did not like being in the paint. So
all the bigs think they're guards anyway. That's just the way we live in. They all think they're guards.
So that was really a treat, and started a program on the 3 tenets of scholarship, character, and we want kids of character and kids that are not characters, and community service, Special Olympics, set up the Heart Run. Went to I wouldn't say old folks' homes. What's the correct term? Senior citizens.
Citizens.
So we've done that, and just kind of stuck to those 3 things of service, scholarship. And when I say scholarship, I mean scholastic. Like, are you a true student athlete? And that kind of just ingrained and got together with the principal at Palmer High School, and now I'm coaching at Palmer.
How big? First of all, your daughter. Where'd your daughter go to school?
Oh, so here.
Yeah,
so
you gotta talk about your daughter first.
My daughter is probably 5'10",
okay,
and she ended up going to Kansas State University on an academic scholarship.
Okay.
So I had two girls. So starting 5 from that Viper team, one went to D2 track, one went D1 track at Liberty University, 2 played basketball D1, and then 2 got scholarships academically to Kansas State. They were best friends.
And okay, so a couple questions. First of all, what is the most common school that kids go to? University of Anchorage? Where do most kids go?
Mason can answer that question.
Yeah.
It depends on what sport. I would say that both University of Alaska Fairbanks and University of Alaska Anchorage are doing a pretty good job of recruiting locally, statewide.
Right.
As far as football goes, we have an all Alaska football camp in normal years that happens in June, which is a pretty big pipeline to some Division II, Division III NAIA schools in the upper Midwest, so Minnesota, Wisconsin area.
Yeah.
Valley City State probably gets a good chunk of football players from Alaska, Division II wise. We've had some kids go to UNLV, University of Nevada, USC. We've had the gamut. We've currently got a couple players playing Division I basketball, one at Texas and one at Montana State.
Okay.
We've had kids go to University of Oregon and play.
My question is, do kids want to leave Alaska, or are they willing to stay? I mean, how is that? Because here's what I've noticed. I've taught for 30 years in Madison, which is the capital of Wisconsin. Very great city, gorgeous city if you ever can get a chance to see it. And it's got lakes and it's beautiful. Anyway, I would say probably 60% of our graduating class stays within 2 hours of it, 70%. I was just wondering,
I think,
you being so like you're in Alaska and then there's Canada and then there's the rest of us. I'm just saying, it's like, do they want to come down to the Continental? Do they want to stay up there? I mean, high school kids are unique in that way, I think.
I would say historically, people want to get out of Alaska, right? They want to see the big world. And I think contrary to popular belief, sometimes it's the little fish or big fish, little sea syndrome, where you're a really, really good player in Alaska, but we're very limited with our resources. And so they work really hard to, it's D1 or bust. And sometimes those Division I scholarships don't come. And they won't satisfy themselves with an NAI scholarship or a Division II scholarship. And like I said, I think with the success, especially on the women's side right now, that the University of Alaska Anchorage has been having, and the increased success of the men's program as well, I think that they're doing a really good job
great stuff
locally. And like I said, Fairbanks is doing a good job too. Now we're running into some budget crisis stuff and possibly shrinking the University of Alaska system. So it's one of those where it kind of goes year to year.
You know what's scary is when Harvard, who has a $28 billion endowment, cuts 11 sports. You start worrying a little bit.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm reading the article. It's like it's Stanford, and then I think it's University of Texas, and then it's like all the Ivies have all this. I mean, their endowments are like they buy a small country, and they're cutting sports. So that tends to be a little bit of a worry. How big? So let's go back to how big is Palmer? How big is the high school?
So my high school is only a little less than 700. So we have the smaller high school of the 3 high schools.
Okay. And then how many do you have? One state champion in each sport? Do you have 2? You have 3? How does that work in Alaska?
There are 4. We have 4 for basketball. We have 4 divisions. 4A is our largest, with I believe 22 schools.
Okay.
And then 3A, 2A, and 1A.
And how small is 1A?
1A is your outlying village schools where you might they might have a boys team one year, but they might not have a boys team the next year. They also do get a waiver from the Alaska School Activities Association to play 8th graders. And Keith, I don't know if you remember this, but I think it was 2 years ago, there was an 8th grader playing and was averaging 34,
Right.
35 points a game for one of the 1A schools. So I think that they cap at about 100 students, and I think there's 130 1A schools, but not all of them offer boys and or girls basketball in the same years.
Right, because it's like, well, yeah, it's like small towns in northern Wisconsin too. It's like,
Exactly.
so yeah, how is your state doing right now? I haven't followed Alaska as far as the pandemic.
We're going full bore as much as possible. The kids have to sign in every day.
Okay.
We have no limit on the number of kids that we can interact with, but we still have to have the social
distancing and stuff. I just didn't know. I mean, I know Hawaii really isolated themselves. Have you guys isolated people coming in and out?
There's either a mandatory 14-day quarantine if you come in. If you don't want to take a test, you can come in with a negative test within 72 hours of landing in Anchorage or any of the local airports, or you can take the test at the airport. And I think that there are 7 communities that offer the testing right then there at the airport, and you get the results. It's varying. I actually returned from a little vacation and I got my results in 30 hours.
Okay.
But I've heard some people, you have to get a second test within 10 to 14 days.
Yeah.
And I've heard some people get their second test results before they even get their first test results back.
That's crazy. No, okay. So that I just wondered if that, because my phone just dinged and I looked over and it basically said California just called off all sports.
They did?
The state of California just called off all fall sports for high school.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they announced earlier this morning, the CIF had announced that they were pushing football to 2021. So I think they're going to start in
March. Maybe?
Yeah, March, and basketball is going to start in March. So they're going to have a late, their state championship will be near the end of the school year.
Yeah.
So CIF said that?
Yeah. And I think now they're one of 22 states now who have either postponed or delayed fall sports for the start of the year.
It's the stats teacher in me. It's called it's you can see the dominoes just kind of falling.
So Steve, that's funny you should say that because McCourt is a math teacher.
Okay. What do you teach?
So
8th grade math, pre-algebra, algebra, and geometry.
I'm making, for those of you that are listening, this is going to go on YouTube too. I'm making a cross sign. I student taught at a middle school. I walked out of the middle school. I dialed the phone. That's when there was like, I dialed the phone to my parents and said, I'm not teaching middle school. I can't do this.
I'm a migrant ed instructor, and my kids, my higher end kids are in Jason's class. So I'm typically in Jason's class probably 70% of the day. And Jason and I just go back and forth. It's comedy hours, Steve.
Oh my God. You guys, I tell people, middle school teachers should be paid more than any human being on the face of the earth, because the amount of energy in that building, you could light up the United States with the amount of energy in a middle school. Anyway. Yeah, and I don't know how you social distance a middle schooler.
It's going to be hard. Our district is one of the districts just in this coming year who is going what they're calling full green, meaning we're going back all in our school 600, 700 plus kids. Keith, the high school that he coaches at will be the same way. Masks are not required, but encouraged. There's going to be some safety precautions, CDC guidelines and stuff, but they're thinking that everything's going to be just a-okay. And as well as I do. I mean, kids just don't want to be not next to each other. No,
I don't remember where I read this article. It was I think it might have been the Washington Post or something. They basically said from about 14 to about 22, their brains are wired to take take risks and do that.
Mhm.
Our job is to teach them the proper way to channel that. And it's like, there's no way you're going to social distance like a 19-year-old in college either. It's like, are you kidding me? There's no way. Like, you give them a little freedom, they're going to run with it. All right. So here's one of the questions I wrote down on my list is, so do you only play in your area? Because Alaska's a big state, and you're not driving to games on a yellow bus, are you?
Oh,
I mean,
so I'll start. No, I'll let Jason go first, and then I'll come in behind Jason. Go ahead, Jason.
So in Alaska, we often like to joke that to upset people in Texas, we would like to cut Alaska in half and make Texas the third largest state, just so you can visualize how large Alaska really is. There are 8-hour bus trips. There are 6-hour bus trips. There are 15-minute bus trips. There are plane trips. There are ferry trips. Pretty much any way that you can get to a game, schools in Alaska get to those games.
and how do are they little charter planes? How do they fly kids to? I mean, that just boggles my mind.
Some are little 28-passenger otters. Some are de Havilland Dash 8s that'll hold 40 or so, and some are actual 737s that are seating 200 passengers.
So Steve,
I'm just trying to figure this out because, okay, so I'm in a metropolitan area. I'm 2 hours from Chicago. I'm an hour from Milwaukee, two really big cities. I just know public education's I have problems getting a yellow bus to go 15 minutes. I mean, oh my gosh, where does the money come from? First of all, I mean, that can't be cheap.
It isn't. We fundraise. We have booster clubs, probably some of the top booster clubs in the United States, and we get money from the school district.
Okay.
We can't take everybody on the team, so that's from a coaching aspect. That's pretty hard because I might get the email that says, "Hey, we've budgeted 8 girls to go to." Well, 8 through 10 are basically kind of the same. So how do I tell 9 and 10? They can't go, and then they get to feel in some kind of way, and it's just it just makes it harder for coaching in Alaska when it comes to that aspect. We're sleeping in classrooms on air mattresses and sleeping bags. We're taking cold showers wherever we can. We're eating as best we can. We're paying in a village, as Jason says, you're paying somewhere between $15 to $20 for a gallon of milk, $25 probably for a gallon of milk. A box of cereal, Jason's what, probably $15?
Probably 8 to 10. If you're gonna buy generic.
Okay, so my jaw just dropped because I'm in the dairy state. I could probably drive 5 miles and find a cow and start milking it. And I'm in a town of 300,000. Doesn't take that long to get to the farmland outside. That's crazy. Yeah, that's like it's like Hawaii. Like, I've been to Hawaii, and everything in Hawaii is because everything's got to be flown in. It's probably similar to you guys. Everything that's not or has to be transported from point A to point B. So how big are conferences?
Well, mine is Wasilla, Colony, Kodiak, which is its own island, and that's a flight. So you each time you play Kodiak, you're praying, right? Because you normally get in, but it's really, really hard to get out for whatever reason, due to the weather.
Especially if you lose, especially if you beat them, they might not let you leave.
So we go down to Kodiak, and we'll have to we'll have to stay in a house and I'll have to stay in a hotel, but the girls get to stay in a house, and I'll make sure that I feed them, and we play 2 games. The villagers, when they play 2 games, they play 2 games in the afternoon, they eat dinner, and then they play again in the evening because they're transportation. So the villagers get together, they'll cook everybody a meal in between both those games. So they're playing 2 games in one day, whereas I'll play a back-to-back on a Friday and then an early, depending if we can get a flight out on Sunday and then it costs extra to stay in a hotel, or do we play early and then we get the girls together and we try to fly out on Saturday because we don't want to play that extra night. So it's just, there's a lot of things in coaching in Alaska that
It's like you're a college coach. You need a graduate assistant to do all your travel stuff. God.
And then sometimes the team mom and the AD don't see eye to eye on the number of people that can go or how many we have in budget and this, that, and the other. So I need prayers.
But football can't do this.
Ooh, go ahead, Jason.
Every sport does. The Peninsula Conference is about a 700 to 800 mile trip from the northernmost school to the southernmost school. Barrow has a football team. It was featured on Football in America. They had a booster somebody down in the lower 48 that did some fundraising, gave them some money, and they actually built a turf right on the peninsula. It's surrounded by water. They have people on polar bear watch during the games. It's a very, very unique. It's a blue turf, much like Boise State. Right. And they will travel as far south, like I said, about 700. It's about an hour and a half flight to their southernmost game.
I'm still stuck on the 800 miles because I can literally leave Madison, Wisconsin, and almost make it to New Hampshire in 800 miles. It's a little over 1,000, but that's a long way.
And I think that's the most unique thing about sports in Alaska is every trip is a travel trip. Now, Anchorage, you obviously have, like Keith said, within a 12-mile radius, you've got Colony, Wasilla, and Palmer, who all play in the same conference. But to get to Kodiak, it's an hour bus ride to Anchorage, and then hope and pray that you might get a flight out. And I have heard, and I also have been part of flights where you'll take that hour flight, you'll get off the ground, you'll circle Kodiak for 25, 30 minutes, hoping that the weather breaks. Then you got to fly the hour back to Anchorage and wait it out in the airport. It's
and
tough.
Why is the weather? So where's Kodiak? Why is the weather so bad getting to Kodiak?
So Kodiak is right in the northern part of the Gulf of Alaska, the southern part of Cook Inlet, and it just has a weather system that comes in from the Gulf. If you've ever watched any of the Bering Sea Gold, and you've seen those shows where they just talk about the rough seas in that Bering Sea, the wind and the weather patterns come out of the Aleutians, but they just funnel right back up into the inlet, and it has to cross Kodiak. So it's either windy, rainy, or really, really nice.
And how many people live in Kodiak?
I would conservatively say maybe 10,000 or so. It's also a Coast Guard base. So you've got a transient.
Because I was wondering how do people make a living in Kodiak other than maybe fishing?
Fishing.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of the shipping, most of the ships that you see on the Alaska-based shows, Deadliest Catch? Many of those are stationed out of Kodiak, some out of the Homer area. Very, very similar weather patterns and such.
Okay. But at least
they're also known for their guided grizzly bear hunting trips. Yeah. Which those guys make a lot of money to guide.
Oh, I bet you that's crazy. So what about the little villages? I would be more scared about the little puddle jumpers than the little. I guess not. Maybe you could land in water if you have one of those kind of planes.
Oh, there's no water in the winter.
Yeah, that's true. That's
all ice for a village. Yeah, it's all ice. It is definitely all ice and snow.
So your travel may be to, say, from Anchorage, if you're going to go to Bethel or Dillingham or to Nome, the end of the Iditarod, you're going to take a 737 jet there. And if you're going to any of the outlying villages, say White Mountain, which is one of the Iditarod stops, you may snow machine there. You may take a dog sled there. You might you might be able to find a little plane and take the 15-minute flight there. But if you're going to do that, you're probably only going to pack maybe 3 or 4 people in, so you're going to have multiple flights going back and
forth. Oh, that's crazy. And then where's the state tournament held? Where's everything? Where does the end of the season occur?
Well,
that's in Anchorage.
It's in Anchorage, yeah. Football, basketball.
And how many teams come in for that?
Eight on the 3A, 4A side, and then 2A, 1A, maybe 16.
So it's 8 boys, 8 girls, 2A through 4A, and then the 1A schools, because there's, like I said, there's 120 some odd teams. They actually bring 16 teams in for both boys and girls. On Wednesday, they do the play-ins. So the 8 winners from those games advance to what they call the championship bracket, and then the 8 losers play essentially a consolation state tournament. Because the travel is such a spend, and it's such an expense that you don't want to come down and play 2 games and lose both games and have to travel back. It's just not cost effective. So at least they can travel them down on a Tuesday. They can get a game. They can get a day of practice in, walkthroughs, etc. The playing games on Wednesday, and then they're guaranteed 2 more games, so they're at least playing through Friday.
Okay. Is there okay? So I think I've wrapped my head around how the games occur. Where do the officials come from? I mean, I'm swear to God, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I'm playing
that's a great question.
I mean, is it the dad of the starting center that's officiating? Because I mean,
depends on where you go. It might be it might be a teacher, the JV coach, and a parent. Hey, we're short an official. We need somebody who wants to come down and run tonight. We do have certified officials in the state of Alaska. We're pretty big on networking as far as when you're living in the big city, and I'll work as many games in 1 week as some officials might work in an entire season. You in these smaller schools, the smaller villages, they may only have 3 home games, and so they're very, very limited again with the travel and expenses and stuff. So it becomes quite the I guess for lack of a better word, you have to become very ingenious on how you get your training and everything. But we've got officials that come from all over the state of Alaska to the state tournament. They try to get the Alaska School Activities Association works really hard on trying to get representation from all around the state.
Well, that's the kicker. That's how you get them hooked. You want to get them on the big stage, and that's how you get them hooked.
Exactly.
It's like, but I'm thinking of Kodiak. If it's 10,000, there's only so many officials on a city of 10,000. There's only so many people that want to probably officiate. But then when you get to the little ones, you're right. I just see that there's a problem with officials now. Finding officials now. That's not, with you have the benefit. You have the hard enough that people aren't going into it. All the space, and now, at least in our area, a lot of the officials are older. I'm not sure they're going to want to officiate if we have football season. Like, I'm not sure they're going to want to be close to those guys. I don't know. Especially in the pandemic, I don't know if they'll want to do it. So that all of a sudden, if you lose more officials, you're going to, we can't play the games if we don't have officials.
Yeah, there's definitely a national shortage, and has been for several years, and in multiple sports. And I'm just thinking about the big 2 between basketball and football. In basketball especially, because there is so much more running that goes along with it, and cardio, and you do get an older population. Just like with anything, coaches get older as well, and there's a time where they need to step down, and they try to pass the baton, and unfortunately with this younger generation, we just don't, there's just not the desire to want to officiate. We try to do, as officials in Alaska, we try to do a good job of I've worked several of Keith's games, and some of my pregame speeches or pregame talks with some of the captains are, hey, this is your last game that you're going to play as a high school student.
Right.
If you don't want to continue your basketball career, or you figure this is going to be the end, come on and officiate. Be able to give back something to the game that maybe has given you so much love as a player. Now you can give something back as an official.
What we've done too is we've really tried to work the college, because Wisconsin's like a school of 40,000. We've tried to get them involved in our youth program. Paid them cash, come do a couple games, get them hooked onto the thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe I want to move up from 7th grade boys basketball. And so that has worked in some respects as far as trying to find young officials. We have had a hard time finding young female officials. Holy crud. there just aren't as many. I mean, I don't know, more getting into coaching, which is good, but you just don't have that representation on the girls' side. At least I've noticed. So that tends to be a hard thing too. Okay. So anything else on that? I've got other questions I got to ask too, but that's very intriguing to me. I don't know how you guys do it, to be honest with you. So let's talk about some of the stuff you sent me, Keith, about that cultural stuff. Is that stuff you're doing with your team? Is that some of that stuff with your effort and your attitudes and all those kind of things that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's something that before I got there, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, I think the girls had 3 coaches in 4 years, or something to that effect. So when I got there, my seniors who had had 3 coaches in 4 years looked at me like, whatever, dude.
Right.
And my juniors were almost kind of looking at me kind of sideways, like, you're not going to be here next year anyway. So my sophomores and my freshmen, really, those are kind of, I wouldn't say they're my kids, but it was just a different understanding and a different respect level between the girls that had so many coaches and those girls who I was their first coach. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I mean, I know when I took over my program, I was the only applicant. No one wanted it. But it's a cultural. I mean, I think it's so important. You got to build that culture to turn things around. You have to change. It's the mental attitude. It has to shift.
The mindset before that was, hey, I'm a senior and I get to play. And some of the coaches, I don't think were all in, and they were just kind of, I'm not going to say they were there just for a check, but their coaching philosophy and their coaching style was totally different than mine.
Right.
And so when I'm now playing the best player or someone that brings value to the court as a sophomore or freshman, and I have juniors and seniors sitting, then it just created, and if I could tell myself 2 years ago, that I would definitely be more embrace those awkward conversations, those hard conversations.
I'm telling you. So here's what
I want to do from now on.
I'll tell you something I do. I say, you want truth or you want harmony? Like when I talk to my kids, you want truth or you want harmony? And for an example, like truth would be, I'm going to tell you, you can't dribble with your left hand. Like that's right. Truth. Harmony would be, you are the best dribbler in the world. You are the best player ever. So almost every kid, when I say, do you want truth right now or you want harmony? You want, and they always come back with truth. They do. But I said, you want to have that courageous conversation with you right now. And you run what I tell parents is, you run a talented, gifted program for basketball players is what you do. It's like, I wish I could sing,
In a small town like this or a small area, these girls have been playing since Jason, kindergarten? And so here's some of the, I shouldn't say that, uniqueness of it is that one set of parents coached them kindergarten through 4th grade, and for whatever reason they butted heads, and another set of parents came in and coached them, and it's like, well, hey, back when those girls were in 6th grade,
yep,
such was the best player. It's just so those kinds of things that you kind of run into.
You know what I have found though, Keith, over time is, first of all, you can't be rational with irrational people, and most parents are, when it comes to their kids, are a little irrational.
Okay.
We all are. I get it. I am too. But the kids want honesty. Like the kids, for the most part, want honesty. They want to know where they stand. Parents, sometimes don't always want that. But having those over communicating, I think is the key to most of, at least over my 30 years with parents and stuff, is over communicating has solved most problems.
It is. Yeah. And attacking those problems from day one. I mean,
yes, you can't avoid them. Yeah.
I'm talking about playing time at the parent meeting, and after tryouts and we pick the teams, that first player meeting is going to be, hey, I have five positions at 8 minutes a quarter, X amount of minutes, divide those up into the 12 girls that we have.
Right.
Like everybody, there's not enough equal minutes. And secondly, this is not rec ball where I'm required to play everyone the same amount of time.
I know. I know. That's where you kind of try to have the rational discussion. Like when I cut somebody and they don't think I should. So you honestly think that I'm going to spend 5 months of my year coaching in January in Wisconsin to not try to pick the best team that now we can agree or disagree. We can agree to disagree that maybe you would pick one team and I would pick another. But I honestly think these are my best kids and these are the kids that are going to play. And, it's like, really, you think I'm sitting at home thinking about how you can get even with your daughter? Really? Like, that's what I'm doing? Usually they can come around. For both of you, this question for both of you, what's the hardest part about your jobs? Your coaching job, your officiating job, not your math job, because I know what's bad about that job.
Go ahead, Jason, you go first.
I would say just letting coaches know that, it's not us against you. We're here to help the game run smoothly. They're there to coach the game smoothly. We're there to officiate the game smoothly. Prior interactions are, it often might be said that coaches think that you hold a grudge, and I don't think that's the case. I don't hold a grudge against any coach or any player or any team for that matter. I go out and I adjudicate the game as it's played, and you adjust as a player. I remember as a player in high school, you adjust to the officiating. As officials, we try to adjust to how the level of play is. If you've got a really two not so skilled teams, a travel might be a little bit of a sliding of a foot or a slipping of a foot versus if you've got two really high skill, we talk about AAU programs,
right?
Those are the players who are on the track to the next level. You're going to be very, very cut and dry as to what the rules are.
Right. No, I agree. What about you, Keith?
Just the change of the way it used to be to the way it is right now, as far as the program. And I think that we've come 180 as a school for me, and we're headed in the right direction. So for me, that was just the hardest part of just dealing with the old and trying to bring in the new. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so for both of you again, what is the hardest skill for you to teach a young official and for you to teach your players? What's the hardest skill to teach?
I'm going to let Keith go first on that one.
So, okay, I got it. So our goal last year, and we've become better, but our goal, I guess, and with my two things that we're focused on is becoming physically and mentally tougher. And that's a skill set, right? Like
it is a skill set.
My girls weren't used to physicalness, and they weren't mentally engaged all the time, or they kind of tapped out when things got hard. And that was kind of, my girls thought it was their right to play basketball instead of it being a privilege. And
right.
Now we're changing that aspect of it. And when you know that it's an opportunity that this could be your last time playing for whatever reason, then you play way better. And then another thing is the mindset of wanting to win as opposed to hating to lose. And you play totally different. And that's one of the things my friend told me, my college roommate, when he watched the games. He's like, your girls want to win, but they don't hate to lose yet. And
right.
Once that mindset of them hating to lose, then
it's that second level of competitiveness. Like it's the reason we don't play Monopoly or games in our house, because we don't talk to each other for like 3 days afterwards.
Right.
No one wants to lose. Like it's not
that
nobody wants to lose. Are you kidding me? Nothing. We could flip a coin in this house and no one would talk to each other.
I could have some jacks with a red ball and picking up threesies, right. And my daughter would say, "Hey, you hit that jack," and I'd be like, "No, you got to." I just get a videotape. So there's no
my daughter,
way.
my wife and my son have played more Uno in this pandemic, and they're Lego addicts. Like they taunt each other. It's like, oh my God, it's a game of Uno, people. Like seriously, I know. All right, what about you, Jason? What's a hard thing to teach? That intrigues me from an official standpoint.
I would say there's several things, because I think players and former coaches think they know the rules, but they don't really know the rules. I often talk to our younger officials, and one of the first things I tell them is I said, you and kind of like we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, is you have to learn to dialogue. You have to learn how to talk to coaches, but you have to use rule speak. You have to talk within the rule book. You can try to confuse them as much as you want to, because you might think that you're right and they're wrong, and but you have to use rule speak. You have to use things so that when they go back in the rule book, they can say, oh, that's what they meant. And I think the other side of that too is, and very closely attached to it, is you're not always right. You know, you have an angle, the coach has an angle, you're going to see plays different ways. Your interpretation of the rules might be a little bit different. And just being able to have the dialogue of you might not be right, but it's one of those things also that you can't go past a coach every time up and down the court and say, yeah, coach, I missed that one. Coach, I missed that one. Yeah, I missed that one.
That won't
You're not
work.
going to be officiating very many games for very long.
That won't work. But the good ones can do that because they know they messed up and they're okay with it. Like, I know I mess up coaching sometimes. It's like, whatever, I'll tell my players I made a wrong call on that one. You know, here's one thing, and I don't know how Keith feels, but I just look for a consistent whistle too. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it might change half to half. Now,
Right.
do you guys have shot clock?
No shot clock.
Okay. You play quarters?
Yes.
Quarters.
Okay. Yeah, we play halves, which was a unique change, which I wasn't 100%. I don't love change, but it's actually made me play more kids. Because it's two 18-minute halves. So I basically got 4 extra minutes. My best player can't go 36 minutes hard. Like, it's like almost like a college game, you know, you got to rest them a little bit. So here's my movement, that this is what I want changed in the game of basketball. I'm going to see what Jason thinks. I think the jump ball we should get rid of the jump ball to start the basketball game. Okay. So and here's my reasoning why. Most of you aren't very good at tossing it because you don't do it very much. No, I'm just saying, it's like you're not practicing. Like when I played, you threw
Absolutely.
it. So why don't we just give the visiting team the ball everywhere? The visiting team gets the ball to start the game and alternating possession after that. Done. We're over.
That's a very unique perspective. I do agree that some people are much better to toss than others. It's one of those things where if you're lucky, you might do it twice a game, but really it's going to be once.
Right.
And
so you do it 30, 40 times a season. That's it. And that's if you're the one throwing it.
Yes. And there are the rare occasions where you might have to throw it multiple times to start the game, just with whatever happens. But that is a unique perspective. I would say maybe going to a coin flip like they do for football or for soccer.
Oh, that'd be interesting. I understand where the toss came from, because that's where the game originated. But the game has changed. There used to not be a 3-point line too. Like I've seen so many and I think it's getting worse. Like the toss is getting worse over time.
Well, it's a skill you don't practice. When you watch, and as officials, we watch film too, right? So I'm gonna say that right now, that coaches watch film, players watch film, officials watch. Not all officials, but if an official really wants to get better, you're going to watch film and you're going to break it down. You're going to look for positioning, whistle tempo, all the things that are going to help you improve. But one of the things we don't look at is we don't watch our toss,
right?
And we don't practice, because really, where else are you going to practice that? You can read your rule book while you're you're laying in bed, or maybe your buddy's driving in the car. You're reading through your rule book. You're studying up on some things. You're on a 2-hour flight to Juneau or whatever, or you're going to circle Kodiak for an hour. So you get a chance to read your rule book. So it is a skill that is not widely practiced, but I think that as officials, we need to be masters of our craft. And one of the things about our craft is we have to be able to toss the ball well.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, it's, I don't know. It's one of those things. I personally think there should be one governing body to decide how to play the game of basketball too. It's like, there's like 18 different ways of doing it. It's like, let's just come up with one way and let's just, but anyway, that's just but I really want the jump ball thing changed because
Now, Steve, do you have a shot clock in
we
Wisconsin?
do not. It got to the point where it almost passed, and then the athletic directors got a hold of it, and I maybe had a little to do with it on Twitter and said, here's my issue with the shot clock, and I'm not pro. I mean, I've talked to our state associate. Anyway. I don't really care because we'll adjust. Here's my issue with the shot clock is a couple things. First of all, it's actually a relatively hard thing to run because I've tried to do it. It's not an easy thing to do. I think we could probably train somebody. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not, and this isn't a reason not to do it. Costs and that, it's not a reason to do it. What I think makes high school basketball unique and different than the college and the pro game is you can decide the style of game you want to play, and I can decide the style of game I want to play, and we can have a chess match with that. If you watch college and NBA, they're all kind of the same pace, and they're all kind of the same game. If you want to go 180 miles an hour and I want to have 16 possessions, I can do whatever I think I need to do to allow my team to win. That's my only reason I'm kind of against it. I know it's probably coming at some point. But if you have a 25 or 30-second shot clock, I'm going to 2-2-1 press you, and I'm going to take 8 seconds off. And then I'm probably going to sit in a zone and then match up at the end and just try to – I think it's going to get very vanilla. And that's why I haven't left high school basketball. I love it. I just think you can go to a high school game anywhere in Wisconsin, you're going to see 85 different styles of basketball.
Right.
And that's my worry with the shot clock. I think
now in the summer when your kids play AAU or travel ball, it's mixed or is
it's mixed. It's not as much as there's not as much shot clock down here as there is. It depends on the tournaments. Obviously, the higher up you go, the more they are. I think the argument that it's getting them ready for college is a silly argument because most of them aren't going to play in college anyway. I worry about the teams that aren't very skilled too. And then you get down to 7 seconds in the shot clock. It doesn't tend to be really good basketball at that point. But I don't know. I think it's coming. I realize it's coming. I'm probably sounding like the old man, get off my porch kind of thing. But I realize it. But I mean, if you have a hard time finding officials, you're gonna have to pay someone else to sit at the thing. And public education is not overly funded at this point, in my opinion. All right. Let's see what else I got on my list here. Here I got one for both of you. So you can both take this. This is one of my favorite questions. All right. So I want you to take a coaching and or an official. I want you to take a success or a failure that you think someone could learn from. Because I think you learn from successes. I think you learn just as much from failures in life, to be honest with you. But is there something that at a coaching time or an official time that someone that's listening could take away a golden nugget from? This could be a success or a failure. Go ahead.
For me, it was. The quote goes, I think you can't send a duck to Eagle School, right?
I think the quote is you can't make chicken soup out of chicken beef. Yeah, I think that's the actual quote. But we'll use yours because I don't want to get E rating, but yes.
So I think I put student athletes in positions on the court that they just physically and mentally couldn't do. And in turn, we lost the game, and then that was a lesson for me. That there were people that I wouldn't say unprepared, but they just didn't have the skill level or the basketball IQ to be in that situation.
Right. I've done that coaching wise. Like I haven't had them ready for a situation that occurred. Now it hasn't happened recently, but that I didn't have the right thing in the right people in the right spot. It was my fault. 100% my fault.
Yes.
But I learned, but I never did it again.
Right.
I only made one scorebook problem in 32 years. It was like I was a freshman or sophomore coach my second year, and I put the wrong number. I've only made that mistake once. I told myself had that happened, and the other team shooting a technical to start the game, I said, I will never do that again. I will never make that mistake again.
It's funny. I was a C team, which is freshman, right, at South High, which is probably the richest high school in Alaska, period, right, whether private or whatever. And had a sister on the team, and she might have been 8 years old. And to keep her around, I used to let her put the numbers in the book, right? So, yeah, exactly. And, you know, ref comes, is like, hey, such and such wasn't in the book. And I look at her, and she looks at me, and she says, what? I was hungry, right?
I had to go get my popcorn.
Yeah, she was like, what do you want from me? I was hungry. And I'm like, well, okay, you're 8, you're right. So yeah, we just took that.
I could see you looking at an 8-year-old, like, okay, you look over there and go, what was I thinking? Like,
right, exactly.
What was I thinking?
See, I was led into a false sense of comfort with her doing it so long and doing it right that I never ever checked an 8-year-old, right? Until she got hungry and was like, you know what?
That's a top 10 story there. I love that one. I've asked that question probably 100 times. I love that answer. It's like,
so that was mine.
Okay.
You know, and just to kind of pigtail of that, for as far as officiating goes, you'd be surprised at how many coaches get upset at the person keeping the book about there being a wrong number. You know, for whatever reason, the coach, there's no way that a coach could have put a wrong number in, but it's usually not the head coach. It's an assistant or a third assistant or a manager. And I wouldn't say near come to blows, but there's been some heated arguments about numbers not getting put in correctly until the scorekeeper. And in Alaska, many of the referee associations also hired the table officials as well.
Okay.
So they're part of the same association. Until the scorekeeper, who will always keep the roster, will say, "This is what you gave me." Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault. And
I'm telling you, it is close to my that I check that book, no lie, 20 times every game. Like, I'm sitting on the bench, I'm checking it, I'm checking it with the previous game, and then when tournament comes, if I move kids up, I literally walk in the locker room and go, okay, let me see your jersey. Like, and I make them pull up their thing. Because it's like, it's my responsibility. It's me. It's
Absolutely.
No one else's. If it's wrong when I turn it in, it's going to fall on me. Like, the buck stops here.
Yes.
Yeah.
As far as success and failures, like you said, I think we learn more from our failures about what not to do. And I would say, as an official, when you don't know a rule and you adjudicate it incorrectly, and I'm thinking more, not like the difference between what is a travel and what isn't a travel, but I'm thinking big layered plays. You've got a double foul, and then all of a sudden the coach gets really angry and irate, and he gets assessed a technical, and then one of the fans jumps off the bench or whatever, and you have these huge layered plays, and how to sort everything out and adjudicate that. I think the first time that you do it incorrectly, and then you go back in the locker room and you look at the rule book and say, yeah, I messed that one up, you will never adjudicate that.
That's
play
in the order that it occurs, isn't it? Is it in the order that it occurs?
Yes. In high school, that's one of the things that's really nice. We call it, as a math term, order of operations.
Right, it is the order of operations.
So there is a very, very specific order that we do things in. I also officiate NCAA, and there are some similarities to high school, and there are also some very, very big differences as well. And sometimes in those layered plays, it isn't how in the order that they come. Is if you've watched, for example, men's basketball, you may shoot a technical foul and then go shoot your bonus 1-1 or 2-shot bonus or whatever. So I've learned the hard way. I've learned that, I thought I knew that rule. Get in the locker room, no, that wasn't it, and I'm not going to mess that one up again.
Right. Do you use please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or do you use the grouping one?
I use the grouping one. So greatly excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Okay. Okay.
And I still because he's been in my class.
We're math nerding out. Sorry, people.
No. It's so when I'm in his class, I do math, and he gets on me all the time about that. He gets on me all the time about this, and he could go ahead. You know what? You explain what I do and why you get so mad at me.
He does shortcuts and doesn't show his work. He undoes what I've been trying to teach the kids for so long.
Oh my God. I'd be like this. I'd be like, get out of here. What are you doing? You have to
Oh,
do your work.
he's done that
my
numerous
biggest worry,
times.
right? It's my biggest worry about going full online. We're going full online for first quarter. I don't know how I'm going to check all their work and make sure they're doing all the steps. That's my, like, I wake up in cold sweats. Like, how am I going to do that virtually with 150 kids? I just don't know how I'm going to do it. But yeah, I do PEMS does because that's what I learned. I teach them the grouping one, but yeah, order of operations. I haven't taught algebra, gosh, in 20 plus years, but I do love my, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. If you don't know the order of operations, people, look it up. All the basketball coaches that are listening. All right. So if you could talk to one coach or one person or who would you guys talk to?
So recently I've had, with my daughter at K-State, I shot it. In fact, me and Jason together created an email and I said, hey, dear Coach Weber, my daughter, blah, blah, blah. Is it possible I can come spend a little time when I'm in the Manhattan area? And literally 5 minutes later, ding, here you go. You're welcome. Come on. We know Amir. Come on down.
Oh, that's awesome.
Huh?
That's awesome.
Oh, I've done it twice and both times were incredible. I mean, I can't coach my girls the way that he coaches his men's team.
No. So what I tell people when they do that, I said, what you have to do is you're sampling. You're like going to a smorgasbord and you're going, I like the peas. I'm going to eat the peas. You can't do what Coach K does. If you have a 6'11" kid that has a 37-inch vertical, then you go ahead and do what Coach K does. But otherwise, you ain't doing that. Like, but that's like teaching. Like I consider teaching like painting or being an artist. How you would teach order of operations and how I would teach order of operations probably be different. We both might tell dad jokes because I tell lots of dad jokes, but I used to do stand-up, so I always try to make them laugh. But they both might be really effective. You know, it's just everyone does it a little bit different. But that's why I tell the young coaches that listen to the podcast, go out. I mean, I was under 7 head coaches before I got my job, and I'm literally a piece of all 7 of them. Like I took a little bit of each of them to make me. Like, I like this, I like this, I like this. This fits my personality. So I think that's great. I think that's a great idea. What about you, Jason? Who would you meet?
Well, coach-wise, it would be Dean Smith. I'm a big Carolina fan, and you know, it's just one of those things. I think he really, and not the only coach ever, but you know, for what he stands for as far as the scholastic part. You're a student athlete first. You're student first, athlete second, and just getting the players to play within a system. You know, I don't know if you watched the 10-part series with Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, and one of the things that Michael Jordan says is the only person really to hold me under 20 points is Dean Smith, and to work within a system. And so I think that's pretty unique to take one of the best basketball players in the history of basketball and to say, hey, you know what, you can be great in other places and do other things, but I need you to work within the system.
Right. And
I've had the opportunity to listen to a lot of good officials, not only on video calls, but also in person. I've listened to Ed Rush, a longtime NBA official. Penny Davis is now the national women's coordinator. So I've heard her speak numerous times. And much like with coaches, I think, you know, you mentioned it, that you take a little piece of other coaches and you've developed your style. And I think as an official myself, and I think every good official takes something from other officials they see, you know, hey, you know what, I really like the way that you toss the ball at the start of the game, but I really like the way that you do your block charge. And I really like the way that you're able to have this conversation with the coaches. And you pick up different things from different officials, and then you create your own style. And I would say between those two officials, I've heard hours upon hours of speeches and pointers and just a multitude of officials. And it's really nice because each one of them brings their own uniqueness to the game. Some of them, it's all about the mechanics. Some of them, it's all about the rules. Some of them, it's about the dialogue. Some of them, it's about the preparation for the season or preparation after the season. So you take a little bit of something from every official you talk to at any level.
Right. Well, and they're not robot. You guys aren't robots. Like everybody has kind of their thing. Once you've coached long enough, you kind of read like, ooh, I can't talk to that guy anymore, or this guy I can, like, I mean, but part of that's just reading the room too. It's like
Certainly. And there are things that certain officials can get away with that others can't. We've all seen the videos of Joey Crawford as an NBA official, and some of the things that his ejections have been. Some of them have been very quick and maybe not necessarily as officials. You look at that and say, I don't know if I would have ejected, that player for that thing. But he's got a style, and there's a reason why he's at the level he is, and that he can get away with what he does. Right. And I'm not saying in a bad or good way. I'm just saying that that's who he is, and that's his officiating style. And I mean, you don't officiate as many finals as he's done and not be good official.
No, you don't get those games. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do rapid fire. And so I ask a question, and then we'll go Keith first and then Jason second, just so we can do it in order. So it's just one question, and then so Jason gets the break because he gets to think about it when we can alternate. It doesn't really matter. All right, so your favorite brand of basketball. I call these rapid fires. What's your the ball you actually play with in the game? What's your favorite brand?
My favorite brand is The Rock.
Okay. Why?
Just the feel of it and the durability and the quality of the basketball itself.
I'm going to tell you, The Rock doesn't get many votes, so you're in a unique category.
Oh, okay. I really like The Rock.
Okay.
I like officiating with The Rock. I like playing with a Wilson Jet.
Wilson Jet. Evolution tends to be
old school.
That's old school.
That is old school.
What is the state association's ball?
The Rock.
The Rock. Okay. All right. So this one's just for Keith. What's your one word to describe your ideal player? One word. Motivated. Okay. For both of you, I'm going to start with Jason on this. Will you go to one sporting event in the world? What would it be and why?
The Masters, and it's the best event ever.
Have you been?
I mean, you can get a pimento sandwich for $2.
Really?
If you've never seen the menu, nothing is more than about $2 or $3. You're not going to pay, like if you go to a football game or to a baseball game, you're not going to have to pay $19 for a hot dog.
You're going to have to pay $1,900 to get a ticket and figure out where you're going to stay. It's in the middle of nowhere. I've been close by. I spoke at a clinic outside of Atlanta, and it was like close to there. But I got a couple good places you can stay. All right. Yep. What about you, Keith?
So for me, going to Howard University in DC, I'm going to pick. You ready for this? I'm going to pick the 1980s from like 81 to 85 Big East Tournament Conference Championship at Madison Square Garden. Any of those schools, whether it be Villy, whether it be Georgetown, Syracuse, St. John's, just a plethora of highly skilled players and phenomenal coaches.
Everybody should go to Madison Square Garden. It's like you got to just go. Like it's like you take the subway in, and it's like I know it's. All right,
Steve, that was going to be one of my favorite coaches is John Thompson, and just because of the fact that the way that those Hoyas played with that kind of edge, offensively pushing the ball up and defensively in your face.
I remember Ewing having all those goaltends to start. Remember that? I don't remember.
But he told him to do that.
I know he did. I think it was against Michael. I think that was that the Michael year?
You could have to ask McCourt.
Yeah. Was that the Jordan year that he lost in the finals?
He used to go out there and block everything. We just want to intimidate him.
I don't remember what that was.
I thought it was 85 when they played
Villanova.
It might have been 85. It might have been 85.
Because
82 was Jordan. Who did North Carolina beat?
The bad pass, Georgetown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Georgetown. Okay.
Freddie Brown threw the ball away, or was it?
And he thought he heard something. I do remember that. I watched that this is how old I am. I watched the 82. I watched that in the black and white TV in the basement with my brother playing wiffle ball. I swear to God, in our unfinished basement, wiffle ball, black and white TV. I don't think you buy a black and white TV anymore.
I don't even know if you could find one in a thrift store or
I know.
flea market or something.
The kids laugh at me when I tell them that. All right. We'll start with you on this one. Favorite pregame meal?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, chicken. Something chicken.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what it is. Fried chicken, chicken strips. As a player and a coach, it was always something chicken related the night before. As an official, it's a little more sketchier because I know that I'm going to be doing a lot more running. And I'm older and I got to be a little more conscious about what I eat. But no, I think chicken's always my go-to.
Chicken. Okay.
So I'm getting a little older too. So I would say, and I'm going to more and more plant-based protein. If you can, come on, Steve, come over, Steve.
No, trust me. I eat sushi. I mean, I got to have a good steak once in a while. I just can't go total. I'm very plant. I mean, I eat a lot of fish. I don't eat a lot of red meat. I don't eat a lot of meat, to be honest with you. But yeah, there's nothing like a good burger once in a while. Yeah, but I eat a lot of sushi. I love sushi.
All right, so my go-to though is still chicken, like Jason, and it would probably have to be like wings.
I don't eat.
I'm sorry?
I don't eat. My pregame meal is not eating. Like I get too nervous. I still get too nervous. I can't eat. No, I eat afterwards, but I can't eat before. What's one thing you guys do to relax?
So part of our community service this summer was to build garden plots in downtown Palmer. And we built like 22, and they're probably 9 feet long by 4 feet, 5 feet wide, 2 cinder blocks high, and we put the dirt in and everything. So we built 22 of them. So as I was leaving, the young lady that runs Grow Palmer said, "Hey, do you want a plot?" And I said, "Look, I'm from LA, South Central. I know nothing about farming. Like,
right.
What do I do with a plot?" And then it just dawned on me, team building. And I said, "You know what? Give it to us." And my mindset was like, I'm going to grow collard greens and yams. I'm going to have this big soul food dinner, right? So we got broccoli, cauliflower. And I don't know if you know the summers in Palmer, our state fair plants and how big they get due to the sunlight.
Well, first of all, we didn't even talk about the sunlight. How do you guys do that?
Like, go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
I mean,
it's easy. You just know that you're going to take advantage of every second of daylight in the summertime, because in the wintertime, you're not going to get any of it.
Okay, because here's the sole reason I will move out of Wisconsin. This is the sole reason I will leave when I retire is if it was, I can handle 20 degrees. I can handle 30 below. I can handle no school because of frostbite and you throw it. I can handle that if the sun's out. But the sun doesn't come out. It's like dreary. It's like living in London. It's like horrible. You see the sun like once every 3 days. I don't know how you do that. That would just depress me. Like
you definitely have to get used to it. You know, having relatives up or friends who come up. You know, in the summertime, one of the things they say, how do you sleep without pulling the blinds down? And oftentimes you will buy what they call blackout shades,
right,
for guest rooms and stuff, because they just can't sleep with daylight. I think people who are residents of Alaska and longtime Alaskans, you get used to it. But I've been to Barrow, the northernmost town in Alaska, and I was there in November, and I don't recall seeing the sun in the 3 days that we were there. But in the summertime, the sun won't go below the horizon for 90 some days. I mean, it's daylight 24 hours a day.
I mean, I'm telling you, that's why I want to come up to Alaska in the summer, because it was like, that'd be good. I go fishing. I could, like, your golf game, it's got to help your golf game. Sure, you could golf at 2 a.m.
Done it.
Have you really?
Yeah. Usually the midnight sun tournaments don't tee off until 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Look at Steve. Look at him.
We're excited because it's light till like 8:30 or 9 here. Like, I'm going to take my daughter driving, practice her because she's getting her permit. And then I'm going to walk the dogs, and it's going to be like 8 or 9. It's going to be sunny. It's like, it's not even close to going down. And that's crazy. I know. We almost came up. I never told Keith this. We almost came up and played in the Alaska.
Great Alaska Shootout?
Yeah. There's a high school one.
The prep tournament or
Prep tournament.
So it would have probably been the Alaska Prep Shootout.
Yes.
Or the Alaska Airlines tournament at West High.
I think it was Alaska Airlines. They offered us like 10 tickets. It didn't work out the year we needed to come, but and people were looking at me like, why are you going up there? We usually go to Florida, and they go, why are you going that way? I go, because it would kind of be fun to not see the sun for like 3 days. Like, I don't know. It'd be like,
It's not as bad as people make it out to be. Like I said, if when you're in the northern part of Alaska, it's a lot worse. But
right.
Where we are, it's pretty average.
Okay, it's not too bad. Yeah.
No, it's tolerable. Let's just say that.
See, that's relative to someone that grew to Alaska, not someone from Los Angeles.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, Los Angeles, you see the sun all the time.
Right. So for me, it was. I mean, the darkness, it gets to you mentally.
Do you have a lamp? Do you have a lamp?
I didn't do a lamp. Back then, I was in the military. As my sergeant would have told me to tough it out. Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We ran PT until it got to be -30, and when you always asked them what our quota was, it was always -29. It was, you know what I mean? No matter what it was always -29. So I got tired of that too. So.
Okay. Who is the best basketball player of all time?
I'm biased because as a Carolina guy, it's got to be Michael Jordan.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Jordan.
Okay. I mean, Jordan's winning most of it, but there's been other votes. There's been some LeBron votes. There's been a couple Kobe votes. There's been some Bill Russell votes. I don't know who else. I think personally, this is me being biased. I think the best player in the world right now might be living in Wisconsin, playing for Milwaukee Bucks. He's not quite there yet, but he's close.
That did go through my process.
Giannis, like if you're building a basketball player, you build Giannis. Like,
I think there's a list of about 10 players that you could choose from, and if you don't pick one of those 10 players, then you really don't know the game of basketball.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you might say, pick player whoever.
Right.
And if they're not in that list of 10, then you're probably just voting with your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Muggsy Bogues.
I'm thinking the most athletic player. I'm leaning toward Wilt because I'm
Magic. I did a podcast about a week ago, and somebody voted for Magic, and it's like, the thing is, what you and I are old enough that the funny part is that Magic and Bird kind of changed the game, and then Jordan took it up here.
Took it up to a whole nother level. Like marketing 101. Like he went up here. But I grew up a Laker fan, and if you were a Celtics fan, I couldn't talk to you. Like, Steve, that's funny because JoJo White is my favorite player, and I grew up a Boston fan living in LA.
Ooh, how did that work out for you?
Oh, I couldn't wear the t-shirts.
I mean, Kevin McHale. I still have nightmares of Kevin McHale. Oh my God, he just irritated me to no end. One thing that helped you become a better official or helped you become a better coach? One thing.
Mentorship. Getting with an older official, or not necessarily older official, but a more experienced official, and just being a sponge.
Mentorship also for me. I have an opportunity to call a couple of coaches in my coaching circle. From the UAA coach to a young lady that coaches in Spokane, Washington at a Division II school. And also, if I could get one of the assistants or associate head coaches at K-State if I have a real critical problem. So.
Okay. Do you guys have a favorite quote? If you don't, that's okay. I'm putting you on the spot here.
Again, being from LA and having an opportunity as a boy, probably between the ages of 8 to 10, being able to go to John Wooden's basketball camp at Cal Lutheran and not knowing the full extent of why I'm at camp or who John Wooden is, and having that picture next to him, and just now realizing the gratefulness I had to be next to a legend of such. And I'm telling you, I'm giving away my age. Cal Lutheran was the place where the Dallas Cowboys had training camp, and Tony Dorsett was a rookie that year.
Oh God.
So make every day your masterpiece is my quote, my favorite quote.
Oh, I love that one. That's a great one. What about you,
should
Jason?
never be proud of doing the right thing. Just do it.
Ooh, I like that.
Dean Smith.
Yeah. Somebody else said something this morning was pick up the trash.
Oh,
You know,
mom and dad.
yeah. Leave it better than you found it, kind of thing. Is like my mom and dad. Is there one book you two would recommend? Obviously, I like reading. You can see my bookshelves behind me. When I didn't used to fall asleep, and now I fall asleep when I read, so I listen to them. But one book.
My number one is Leads, for God's sake.
Ooh, that's a good book. That
Yeah,
no one's.
I can read that book over and over and over again. I'm sure it's in there.
It is somewhere. I know it is. I haven't read it recently, but it is. It's on there. I think it's on the top upper shelf.
It is. Someone told me to get it, or I might have got it from one of your blogs, and I read it, and it was, and I read it again and highlighted it. I've actually given away 4 or 5 copies to coaches that, or I've heard from different types of parents that these coaches needed, and then boom, I gave them the book. But yeah.
I love that.
I think there are 2 for me. As a former coach, player, playing for Knight, the Steve Alford story. We talk about his 6 seasons, the 4 at Indiana. He played on the '84 Olympics, and then they also did a trip to somewhere in Asia. So playing essentially 6 full seasons for Bobby Knight, and just very, very cut and dry. As an official, verbal judo by George Thompson, because it helps you dialogue. I think it helps you in a lot of situations. It's helped me as a teacher, talking with parents, talking with students, talking with coworkers, administrators. It's just a really good book to help you learn how to dialogue correctly.
It's an art. There's an art to that. All right. So I always end with this question. What would you tell your younger self? Time machine. Back to the Future. That ages me. What would you tell your younger self?
For me, keep fighting. Just keep doing what you're doing. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose, you fail, successes, but you got to keep pushing on. If you hit that roadblock and you stop, you hit that wall and you stop, you're not going anywhere.
And for me, it would be like appreciate the small details in life. Just appreciate and be grateful more and more each day. Because I have not done that enough, I think, in my lifetime. But Steve, living in Alaska, just looking out, I could wake up in the morning and look at mountains that are totally incredible.
I mean, you're literally, you're in God's country now. Yeah. Have you been to Banff? Have either one of you been to Banff or Glacier?
In Canada?
Yeah.
I have not, but I want to. They have a great golf course there.
What about Glacier? Glacier is one of my favorite national parks. But anyway, it reminds me. I'm thinking Glacier and Canada are going to be similar, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm trying to convince my son to go do a whole bunch of national parks now that he's taken a year off. Just kind of go see the Grand Canyon and just go see the world a little bit. But we'll see if it works out. What time is it there right now? It's 5:20 here. What time is it there?
2:20.
It's your 3 hours. So your mountain time.
No, Alaska time. Your mountain time, or Central time.
Yeah, we're Central. What are you? What Central time? What are you considering?
Alaska.
Alaska.
There's
time.
Literally Alaska time.
Yes.
We're our own time zone.
I did not know that. Oh, see, I learned something today.
We're an hour behind Pacific time.
Ah.
And an hour ahead of Hawaii.
So how do you watch sporting events?
Late at night.
Early in the morning.
I'm going, Jesus.
DVR.
I know, because the world's set up for Central and Eastern, really.
Exactly.
It is.
So college football kicks off at 8 a.m. for the noon games. Right on the East Coast, the noon starts. Kick off at 8 a.m. here. So that means, for me to get up and watch Chris Fowler and to watch Kirk Herbstreit and College Game Day, I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And I do.
That's crazy. But then you have the rest of your day. You can go golfing in the afternoon. So there's a plus to that. There's a plus to that.
NFL game starts at 9 instead of 1, just things of that nature. So we get 9 a.m. game. So as you're getting ready.
The NCAAs would be better. At least the final game starts at like 8. I think it starts 8 here, 9 Eastern. So that would actually be right after dinner. That would be actually better for the NCAA.
The championship game is perfect to go sit and, you're going to have dinner while you're watching the game. 5:15, 5:20 start.
That works. All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate this. This was great. I haven't done one of these in a while, and this was so much fun. So I really appreciate you guys taking your time out of your day to do this. So
no problem.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Hey, Coach. Hope you enjoyed the video. Nothing better than sitting in the empty gym here. Let me know how I can help you. Make sure you subscribe and like. Leave some comments down below. If you're looking to go to the next level from someone that's done this for 30 plus years, let me help you do that. Let me help you put some pictures on the wall. Go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better.